Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing this Friday? Happy payday for a lot of you guys out there. All right, let's see. How excited are you guys about this whole XRP winning their court case? I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, not really in a sense that like it actually matters to myself. Sorry, I'm getting this music thing situated. If it's too loud, please let me know, guys. Just trying to get some other kind of music in the background. All right. Yeah, so it's pretty good that we can now label it not a security, which is awesome. I'm gonna make Gary Gensler cry over some more bullshit. Let's see. All right, let's get into who's here, and then we'll check out the market. Let's see. DJ Mines, good to see you, buddy. Good morning. Mr. Max Voltage, eat your raisin bran this morning, don't lie to me. Magic Lucky, Dom G, Rud Puts, what's up, man? The Pirate, Overboard Tech, Steven Cicero, Blue Dragon, haven't seen you in a minute. The Maker's Dimension, good to see you. Cape Cod Crypto, what's up, buddy? Who else? Carl Code, Duke Nukem. Let's see. Victory for Crypto. Absolutely Little Time Mining. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, let's check out this market. Let's see where we at. We are at Bitcoin at 31,174. Nice little gain for Mr. DJ Mines. I know he purchased some Bitcoin the other day. I want to ask Mr. Little Time Mining, what do you think about Bitcoin? Are we going to see 25,000 again? I know you do a lot of trading, and I actually made a trading section inside Discord for you. So I really want to buy a full Bitcoin when it gets back down, or if it goes back down to 25. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. I'm super curious to know. Ethereum looking at 1990. Look at that, 5.85%. It actually broke 2,000 last night when I looked. Let's see. Where is? Oh shit, it's right here. I was like, where the hell's XRP? How do I scroll down? Why is that not working right? Is that good? There we go. 78 cents. Look at that. Dogecoin hit 7 cents. Hell yeah. LTC $100. Damn, things are going nice, huh? That's crazy. I'm not used to seeing XRP right here in massive. That's cool. Things kind of shifted a bit. All right, let's see. Crypto bubbles. Biggest earner of the day is clearly XRP. Let's see the week. 68.2. The day, again, 66.1. Man, everything's up. Like, everything's up. XLM's up. Look at this, Mr. Zapirate. Thanks for the 5 gifted memberships, dude. You didn't have to do that. You're awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, buddy. All right. Top 10 coins real quick. Coin market cap, or by by coin market cap over here on Coin Gecko. Sorry. This is Bitcoin, Ethereum. We have Tether, XRP, BNB, USD coin, Lido staked Ether, Cardano, Solana, and Dogecoin is in 10th. Look at that. Litecoin got kicked down to 12th. That's kind of crazy. Man, look at XRP. XRP is in number 4. Was it number 4 the other day? Congratulations to everybody that got the gifted memberships, by the way. Mr. Little Time Mining, Ninja Kid, DJ Petto, John Germain, and Steven T. Appreciate you guys for being here. All right, I don't want to blind you guys, so let's do this. Fear and Greed Index is at 60. I'm sure that'll be pumped a little higher tomorrow at some point. But all right, let's get into, you know what, let's start with the crypto world's news today, and we'll listen to them. It's about 7 minutes, and we'll go over to this right here, Fox Business, and then we'll get into Anthony Pompliano's video about Bitcoin miners being perfectly positioned for artificial intelligence, which is pretty interesting conversation to say the least. So without further ado, let's listen to this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to just at me in the chat. Let's do it.
Today, the former CEO of Celsius, Alex Mashinsky, is arrested, and a U.S. district court delivers a huge win for Ripple in its battle with the SEC.
Golf clap.
Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos. Digital currencies are turning higher this morning, with Bitcoin climbing to just under $31,000, Ether crossing above $1,900, and XRP rallying 25% after we finally got a ruling in that battle between the SEC and Ripple. We'll catch you up on that in just a second. First, though, let's talk about breaking news on Celsius Network. A source told CNBC this morning that Alex Mashinsky, the former CEO of the bankrupt crypto lender, was arrested today. Charges against Mashinsky include securities, commodities, and wire fraud, as well as various securities manipulation and fraud charges.
Dude, did anybody get affected by Celsius this whole thing? I wasn't, but yeah, this guy got arrested. That's crazy. I totally forgot.
Now, if convicted, Mashinsky and another former Celsius executive could face decades in prison. At the same time, the bankrupt crypto company agreed to pay a $4.7 billion settlement with government regulators. The crypto lender was charged by the SEC and CFTC today was scheming to defraud investors out of billions of dollars.
Jesus.
That settlement was announced by the FTC and will not be paid until the company is able to return what remains of customer assets in bankruptcy proceedings. The latest developments are in addition to the allegations from New York prosecutors earlier this year that Mashinsky orchestrated a $20 billion fraud against investors.
Oh my God.
Also happening this morning, a district court judge in New York just delivered a huge win for Ripple in its case against the SEC. In the ruling, the judge said the XRP token is, quote, not necessarily a security on its face. That decision was seen as a key hurdle for the crypto industry amid huge scrutiny in 2023. The positive news for Ripple sent altcoins soaring as it gave hope to crypto investors that similar tokens may not be considered securities. To discuss these headlines and what they mean for the industry, I spoke to Corey Clipston, the CEO of Swan Bitcoin, for his take.
Real quick, DJ said, keep that butthole tight. Guy's going to be sleeping with his ass against the wall. How long was that XRP case going on? Does anybody know? Was it like 3 years or something? Or almost 4 years? Let me know. I'm interested. I forget.
So, Corey, there are two breaking news stories happening right now. I want to get your take on both. Let's start with Celsius. So a couple of different actions today, both from the SEC and CFTC, but also Mashinsky has now been arrested. Can you kind of set the significance of this for us? I mean, we already knew how a lot of these things were playing out. A lot of talk already about how fraudulent Celsius had been in some of its actions. So help us dissect the news today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone expected Mashinsky eventually to be arrested, so that was no surprise. I would say probably the biggest surprise for me was the magnitude of the FTC fine that accompanied the announcements this morning. So $4.7 billion is not chump change. I believe that Meta, Facebook, faced a charge of $5 billion for some of their violations in the past, and that was maybe one of the biggest ones ever. So it's kind of that order of magnitude. Just a massive number, and it just means, whatever they are able to return to creditors, there will be less than nothing left, obviously, after facing a fine like that.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about. Just the parallel proceedings in terms of Celsius and bankruptcy court trying to make customers whole again. How does this fine affect that?
The fine is junior to those claims. So whatever gets paid out through bankruptcy courts comes first. And then, if there were somehow any value left, which obviously there won't be, then the fine would just kind of finish filling the grave.
Okay, let's pivot now. So at the same time that this Celsius news is coming in, we also just got a ruling in the SEC Ripple case. What's the significance of this?
Yeah, so in my understanding, this is actually rulings on requests for summary judgment from both sides. So it actually doesn't mean that there won't be full in-court trial litigation of these claims. What was granted, I believe, was the SEC's claim that the Ripple's sales directly to investors constituted the sale of securities. That was granted, so that summary judgment did pass. It looks like there was not a summary judgment passed on programmatic sales of Ripple, of their XRP token owned by Ripple through exchanges, because that was not them selling directly from the company to the investor. It was intermediated by exchanges. So they said that did not warrant a summary judgment in favor of the SEC's position.
Now, in the last half hour, we saw Coinbase and MicroStrategy stock shoot up. So how is the industry reading into this, this document that just came out?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like on first read, they're expecting that the secondary sales may be relatively more in the clear. So when a company isn't directly shilling their securities via ICO, or the way that Ripple corporate has marketed and sold Ripple token, XRP, whatever, to investors in direct sales over the years. Maybe once these things are on exchanges, there's some wiggle room there. And so I think that's why the market is hopeful.
Does this have any sort of impact on the regulatory uncertainty that everyone has been talking about? Obviously, Lummis just yesterday resurfaced her bill that we've been talking about for a while now. What's the significance of this ruling and where regulation is headed in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is just going to have to get regulated through courts. And so I'd say this kind of supports the thesis that, I guess Gensler and some others have been saying all along that existing securities law is sufficient to handle digital securities, because walks like a duck, talks like a duck, acts like a duck. It's still the same thing, regardless of whether it's on different kinds of rails. And I would say this probably supports that thesis, because you're seeing case law, courses getting settled, cases getting settled, cases getting litigated, and you'll see the establishment of precedent that other courts can follow as some of these cases work their way through the system. So seems like the system is working. It's slow, it's ugly, it's not moving at the speed of crypto, that's for sure. But I think this will let people gain some more clarity over time as more of these cases work their way through.
Specifically on the SEC front, does this, take the wind out of their sails with respect to this regulation by enforcement dynamic that we've seen play out the last few years?
I don't think so at all. I think, as I just sort of intimated, I believe this is actually this is a mark in favor of setting law via court cases and not having to come through with, entirely new regulation or starting a new agency like Coinbase wishes would happen or something like that. So I think you litigate these cases, and apply existing law. And I think the system will kind of just sort it out.
Well,
That's
next
what I
week,
think
get
will
rid of
happen.
Gary and we'll be good.
No judgment either way. It's just what I expect to happen.
Yeah. Gary sucks. We all know. All right. Let's see. What else we got? To be honest, I don't know if I really want to listen to this. You guys really want to listen to this? That's kind of shitty, to be honest. It's boring as shit. All right, let's listen to this. So this is Altcoin Daily. I don't give a crap about Cardano personally. That's just me. But it says, do not buy Cardano until this happens. But I actually listened to like the beginning part of this, and just the guy talking about the Bitcoin cycle and the Bitcoin, like the halving, and he kind of showed charts of where the graphs were at this point. It was kind of neat. So let's listen to the beginning of this, and then we'll get into Anthony Pompliano's video. So let's do it.
We know that crypto is extremely cyclical, right?
Benjamin,
I'm just gonna skip forward a little bit. There we go.
Benjamin, what's your general take on the market mover, Bitcoin?
So I guess I'll first off say that one of the ideas that we've talked about for a while is, is Bitcoin just following sort of what it typically does in a pre-halving year, right? And that's where it essentially spends half the year going up and half the year going down. You can actually visualize this by looking at 2015 year-to-date ROI of Bitcoin, which is this pink line. And then this upper one up here is sort of like this bluish purple line. That was 2019. The current line, the current year, this is the light blue line. So this is 2023. So you can see that so far,
I was trying.
we're
Can
more
you
or
guys
less
see this actually? Okay. Can you guys see these lines kind of? I was trying to see if there was like a better way for me to just get out of here for a minute. I'll just get out of here for a minute so you guys can see this. Actually, that's probably better.
putting in a tempered version of 2019, a more impressive version of 2015. And just for reference, if we were to overlay 2011 as well, you can see that Bitcoin went up 100x, in the first half of the year, which was kind of a crazy move. What I see though, in all cases, look, n equals 3, you can't take it to the bank, but in all 3 cases, what you will see is that either the yearly high or a significant local high was put in sometime around the midpoint of the year. So for instance, like in 2011, the yearly high occurred on day 161. In 2019, the yearly high occurred on day 177. In 2015, the local high before a double bottom occurred on day 193. Currently, the yearly high, I believe, occurred on day 178, although we are pretty close to putting in a new yearly high. I think Bitcoin right now is at 31K, so it's certainly possible we could put in a new yearly high. I still would look at this and say, there is still a chance that, you could see this sort of fade in the second half of the year. What's interesting is if you take the average of 2015 and 2019, you get a chart that looks like this. And what's interesting is how it is really tracking it right now. So if it were to reach that full extension of the last two, the average of the last 2 pre-halving years, that would basically put Bitcoin at 35K. If it were to then fall back down to this level, that would put it back at 23K. My general expectation for Bitcoin in the pre-halving year is you just wreck both sides, right? You wreck the bulls and you wreck the bears. and you get everyone sufficiently wrecked, right? So that when you go into to the halving year, everyone's just been destroyed, right? You know, you go up long enough to make the Bulls feel invincible, then you go down long enough to make the Bears feel invincible. By the way, another way to visualize this is look at monthly
This chart right here is actually very interesting the way he explains it.
returns for Bitcoin in the pre-halving year. So look at 2011. 5 of the first 6 months were green. Okay. And then 5 of the last 6 months were red. In 2019, 5 of the first 6 months were green.
Same thing.
And then 5 of the last 6 months were red. 2023, 5 of the first 6 months are green. If it follows what has historically happened, it means 5 of the next 6 months are red. 2015 is the exception, where the last half of the year was actually relatively green. But note that in 2015, when the last half of the year was green, the first half of the year was more or less red.
Now, do you guys think that we'll have a bunch of red months now in the next months to follow? Because this is the pre-halving year. So I'm, to be honest, I hope it goes down a little bit so I could purchase some more. But at the same time, we don't want it to go down because it looks good and healthy where it's at. So I don't know. It's kind of neat.
So what we've seen in every pre-halving year is 6 red candles and 6 green candles, except for 2015, which was like 7 green and 5 red. So my general expectation for Bitcoin in pre-halving years is to basically go sideways. I mean, we go up for a bit, we go down for a bit. And look, I think the most common form of criticism, and it's somewhat fair, right, is to say, well, can you really call a 100% move sideways, right? Like, is that really sideways? I think in the context of Bitcoin, it is a fair assessment, especially when you're talking about bull runs that go up 2,000% or, 10,000%. And again, if you were to look at 2015, these moves, by the way, that look like nothing, I think most people would say that this was a sideways year for Bitcoin, right? When you look at 2015, this was still like a 90% move, right? Like it just doesn't look like it because of what eventually came after it. So that's my general thought process on Litecoin. And I guess the question is well, what would, or sorry, what did I say? Litecoin?
Yeah.
We just made a video on Litecoin.
The guy needs a Red Bull.
That's my general thought process on Bitcoin. And I think I guess what's the narrative, right? Like what's the narrative to actually bring it back down to the lows eventually or somewhere around there? And I think it would be, like the macro, like the economy really starting to slow down, liquidity being drained from the system, the Fed going too far and potentially ushering in a recession. I mean, the unemployment rate still remains relatively low right now. I think a large part of that is due to the fact that if you were to go look at job openings, you can see pretty clearly that they've been coming down.
What the hell is a chart for job openings?
This is a trend, right? Like you can see that job openings were trending up. I think this move of the last year has gotten it back to trend. What happens if it goes below trend like it did in 2020? I mean, 2020, it happened immediately, but what happens if it's just a slow progression below trend? Then you could finally start to see the unemployment rate go up, and something like that could be very negative for risk assets. When does that occur exactly? I don't know, but maybe around the Q4, Q1 timeframe could be somewhat reasonable. And for reference, last cycle, the higher low came in March of the halving year. The cycle before that, the double bottom, came in August of the pre-halving year. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that this correction in Bitcoin that occurred.
Wait, hold on. What did he say? It comes in March of the halving year, and then the pre-halving year was in what, April? Is that what he said?
Q1 time frame.
Sorry,
March of the halving year.
March of the halving year. He said is the low.
Last cycle, the higher low came in March of the halving year. The cycle before that, the double bottom, came in August of the pre-halving year. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that this correction in Bitcoin that occurred in 2015, it started in July, and it was a 50% correction, right? So and it was a double bottom, right? So a 50% correction from 31K would actually put you back at 15.5, which would actually be a double bottom. So I think that's what we're looking at with Bitcoin. I mean, look, it can still climb the wall of worry as long as the unemployment rate doesn't go. But once the labor market softens up, I think that's where you get your, whether you're higher low, your double bottom, or your lower low.
Do you put any credence into this time is different narrative? Because for the first time ever, BlackRock, Fidelity, all these institutional players are aggressively getting into Bitcoin in their own way or applying to. What if this time's different?
Look, I mean, the markets humble us all, right? They humble us all at various points. So I'm not going to unilaterally say that new highs can't come this year. I just could say with my own experience, it's a relatively unlikely outcome. I in 2019, when Bitcoin went up 4x, I mean, everyone was calling for new highs, right? I mean, I feel like there was a part of all of us that thought, you know, Bitcoin could break 20K. I mean, it went to 14K. Like, it wasn't even that far away from it. But then we got into the back half of the year and it faded. So, you know, does BlackRock make a difference? My guess is that if there was any type of accumulation going on, it probably occurred back at 15K. Yeah, by the time we hear the news, like, you know, that stuff is probably more or less priced in, right? It's not to say that just because this is happening means that the asset has to go up. In fact, oftentimes when like futures and whatnot get launched, that actually can mark when major products like this get launched, that can mark tops. In fact, wasn't it like the Coinbase IPO that basically marked the April top in 2021? You saw something similar with CME and Bitcoin back in 2017. So I would say these are more so hype events, but it's not necessarily going to just lead to new highs. I think you need much more than that. So look, I mean, to answer your question in short, this time could always be different, although those words tend to not pan out very frequently, right? We've seen that, and again, like even in 2021, right? I mean, when did Bitcoin peak? When it always does, you know. So yeah, I think that's lessons learned.
And actually, I was speaking to somebody on the shoot for Killer Whales, the crypto Web3 Shark Tank TV show, and somebody was telling me that they provided some of the liquidity, the investment for BlackRock's ETF application. I think they said like 10 million or something like that. And they did it back about 6 months ago in November.
I heard that back in November, somebody put $10 million into the BlackRock ETF fund. Like what? Back in November? You tell me that's not like insider trading bullshit when people knew what was going on? That's so nuts. That's so nuts.
So we're just hearing about it now. But they were.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the reason Bitcoin has gone up is not because of that as much as we're just seeing the altcoin market bleed into Bitcoin, right? Like, I think that's probably the more fundamental reason. Because
but it definitely made the rich richer. Don't take that as a mistake, I guess. If anybody knew about somebody putting $10 million into the whole BlackRock thing, those people definitely invested into some Bitcoin at that moment. If that's not kind of insider trading, I don't know what is.
What Bitcoin's at its yearly high, right? It's at 31K. But total market hasn't put in a new yearly high. So there has to be some rotation of alts to Bitcoin if Bitcoin's putting in new highs and the total market cap isn't. And by the way, Total 3, the altcoin market, looks pretty pathetic. I mean, it's in a rally right now, one of these short-term rallies, I think, but bad. I mean, it's nowhere near its yearly high. And by the way, this high here that occurred in April was still below the November high from 2022. So I think to some degree, the reason Bitcoin has gone up is a rotation of capital from altcoins into Bitcoin.
I don't think he's wrong.
How many months ago did I have you on the channel where we talked about altcoin Bitcoin dominance? Was it 6 months?
Yeah, it was. I think it was in April. I think it was about 3 months ago. Okay. I mean, yeah, the dominance was at 47%. And I said that the altcoin market was looking pretty bad and that it was likely going to roll over here. There were a lot of negative comments about that. And just a few weeks after that, we saw a lot of those coins, right, that we talked about. Like we saw Cardano put in a new low, Avalanche, Chainlink, and Polkadot. All four of them went on to put in new lows just a few weeks later. So, I mean, it does go to show you that just because people are hyped up on the altcoin market doesn't mean a thing.
All right, I really just wanted to hear about Bitcoin, but I really don't care about Cardano and all this stuff. I really want to get over to this video right here. But first, Yeti wants me to show his site, the audit site, that we actually usually do. We have 3 new coins. I didn't have a chance to get into these or to do the stream this week. I've just been super busy. But he did just post this, and looks like we have another failed wallet. If you guys are into this wood coin, whatever the BS this is, what in the hell? So apparently this failed. So it has, what's going on with it? Is it just a Trojan? Is that what's going on? It's a virus. Let's see. With the wallet using really old, outdated SSL packages along with numerous false positive hits. That's never mind. Let me see. So Yeti, what is the what's the deal with this, buddy? What was the actual outcome? I guess report shows possible malware detections due to nature of cryptocurrency. That stuff's kind of normal, but what's the actual reason, I guess, Mr. Yeti? If you can hear me in the chat. I can see all the Trojan hits, but List of vulnerabilities. That's not good. So yeah, guys, if you're interested, go check this out. Yeti will let us know in the chat. Anyways, no further ado, I want to get into this. Bitcoin miners are perfectly positioned for artificial intelligence. This was a lady from over at HUD 8, and this is actually a really good conversation with Mr. Anthony Pompliano. So I'll leave a link to this video and everything else we watch here today down in the description below. So let's check that out.
Jamie, I thought a great place for us to start this conversation is in the differentiation you all have with many other miners. Most miners are Bitcoin and Bitcoin only, and they're just focused on go mine as much Bitcoin as you can and survive the bear markets. You all have this diversified approach where you are Bitcoin miners, but you also have a lot of high computing power, computing performance that you're looked at as well. Can you help understand what is the difference between just being Bitcoin only versus some of the high computational power that you all have, and then what are the advantages to having more of a diversified strategy?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump right in. So I'll take a step back a little bit. HUD 8 was one of the first publicly traded Bitcoin miners. We went public in early 2018, originally on the Toronto Venture Exchange, and then over time moved up to the Toronto Stock Exchange, and then we're the first Canadian public to dual list onto the NASDAQ in June of 21. I was brought in by the board in December of 2020, after HUD had gone through a particularly difficult time during the bear market. I mean, all miners had a rough go in that bear market, and those that survived were people like HUD who had Bitcoin on balance sheet, and we were able to use that Bitcoin to help kind of weather the dog days of that bear market. Others survived because they were mining other coins that had different economics, and that was able to carry them through. And when the board looked to bring on a new CEO, one of the things that they were focused on was somebody that had a background in more traditional compute or technology, that had done transformation work in the past, that loved Bitcoin, and could start to think about how to diversify the company to kind of avoid going through that type of a bear market experience again. So I came in, first thing we did was really focused on the balance sheet. We cleaned up the balance sheet. As I say, we dual listed onto the NASDAQ just to drive better capital markets access, more liquidity. And then we started growing the mining side of our business, but also we're looking at ways to bring in fiat-based revenue streams that were uncorrelated, that could kind of help dampen some of the volatility of Bitcoin mining economics, because there's so much of Bitcoin mining economics are out of our control. We obviously don't control the price of Bitcoin. We don't control the global network hash rate. We also had the additional complexity of an energy crisis, and energy is our largest input cost. So we looked at the industry and made the decision to purchase our high performance computing business from another Canadian public company. So we bought it as an already established cash flowing business. We have 2 data centers in Toronto, 2 in Vancouver, 1 in northern BC, and they come with a diversified customer base, a variety of products, cloud co-location managed services, which is obviously getting a lot of headlines today as we see an insatiable demand for GPU-based compute, driven by the explosion of AI and all of the excitement in that community, and tons of new startups in that space, and really for GPU clustered compute, unlike Bitcoin mining compute, which is done by ASICS, they really have to be in a traditional data center environment. You need, and of course, we're interacting with customers on that side of the business. So you need a billing team and a sales support team and a network operations center, and all of those things that go into giving a great customer experience, which doesn't exist in a Bitcoin mining world, where predominantly we actually don't have end customers. When we're prop mining, we are really just putting the compute power to the Bitcoin blockchain and receiving Bitcoin in return. So it's a very, very different kind of go-to-market motion. But my background is almost entirely from the traditional tech side. I spent 22 years in trad tech before coming over to HUD, and a lot of it in data center and infrastructure. So I really see a world where over time, the type of computing that we do in a Bitcoin mine, which is really, really a lot of power, tons of density, but we don't worry about excessive security controls, or redundancy. It's all just single feed power, and it's really built to be a flexible workload. So a Bitcoin mine will power up and down on minutes notice based on power pricing or the peak demands of the local grid, depending on how we're working with local operators. Whereas a traditional data center workload, including GPU clusters, it's a net taker. You need a stable base load. That data center needs to be up and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's a ton of complexity that goes into how we ensure those data centers don't go down. Dual power feeds, multiple generators, UPS, things that we don't need.
Mr. Crypto Frank. Perfect. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Hard work keeping us up to date. Just a suggestion: if you believe in BTC, check out Coinbase and Microsystems stocks. When we buy more BTC, we buy more of those and other stocks that move with crypto. Always stay diversified, in my opinion, and always DCA.
DCA. Absolutely, man. Dude, thank you so much. You're awesome. Appreciate you, buddy, for the $99.99 super chat. Jeez. I need to get way more hyped up for that stuff. I need to find all the buttons that DJ has, but I got the perfect one. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it, buddy. You don't have to donate that much. You know that, but I do appreciate everything. So yeah, that's a good point. Actually, there is a lot more thing. Obviously you want to be diversified in your portfolios, right? With whatever you invest in, you don't want to put everything into Bitcoin or everything into anything just specifically, right? Always DCA, that's probably the best way to do it. But yeah, no, dude, you're crazy. Thank you, and happy Friday to you, my man. I'm gonna put a poll in the chat. Actually, I want to know what you guys think about the whole GPU mining and AI. Is it actually going to open new doors for GPU miners? I'm just going to see what you guys have to say, but let's continue with what she is saying. Appreciate you, Mr. Crypto Frank.
Need to have in a Bitcoin mine where it's a flexible workload, and ultimately it's not customer data that's being protected at the end of the day. It's just pure horsepower being applied to the algorithms.
When you start looking at that high performance computing, it's obvious how the Bitcoin mining is very kind of straightforward. And as you described, a bunch of advantages to it. Are there things that you're actually able to, in the future, potentially put these together? Can Bitcoin mines perform better or benefit from actually going into some of these, kind of redundant type facilities? Or is there an advantage to keeping them separate facilities and actually using what is kind of unique to Bitcoin and the mining process and not trying to commingle these?
So ASIC compute does not play well with other types of compute. Just the heat, the environmentals. You don't mix. There were a lot of experiments to actually bring ASIC compute into traditional data center environments during the 17-18 bull run, and it was just proven out that it creates all kinds of environmental imbalances within a traditional data center environment. And frankly, the cost is too high, because if you think about to build the infrastructure to support a Bitcoin mine, you're looking at anywhere between kind of $300,000 and $800,000 per megawatt, depending how you build it out. Whereas in a traditional data center environment, because of all the security and redundancy you need, you're looking at, it could be anywhere between 8 and 13 million US dollars per megawatt. So really, really massive difference in approach. That is difficult to intermingle. And again, primary differentiator is a traditional data center is a net taker. They're always taking the power. Whereas the benefit and beauty of a Bitcoin mine is that it is a flexible load and can work in conjunction with the grid in a way a traditional data center can't. I do think we're going to see parts of these worlds converge a little bit more over time. But it's still very much early days.
We just talked about the differences, but the similarities are pretty obvious in the sense of you're running servers or computers and it's hardware. You got to plug them in, you got to take power, and then you got to do different things with them.
That's right.
Talk a little bit as to kind of the story, right, for public markets. So much of public market investing is about the narrative, it's about the story of a company, and being able to say, look, it is two different things and there are differences in those things, but also there is this commonality that positions you all at kind of the forefront or the tip of the spear of computing for this next generation of all of these different applications. How do you think about what that story really is and the power of being able to share that versus just being, kind of a single focused Bitcoin miner?
Yeah, I think really the power comes in our ability to flex as market demand and economics evolve. We also can drive synergies from things like a network operations center that is there to monitor our data center sites 24/7. There are things that they can do to help on the Bitcoin mining side as well, which are also running 24/7, but with a different type of manpower outlay. Of course, you always have synergies when you're looking at the corporate structure. So from all of the corporate functions that support our Bitcoin mining side of the business can equally support our data center side of the business. And again, I do think we're going to see an increased world of convergence, and there's all kinds of innovation happening behind the scenes on, can potentially GPUs go into a container type of environment and take advantage of some of the lower cost power available at Bitcoin mining sites? How do we handle some of the network connectivity issues for those types of applications? But that's certainly work that's being done, and I think we're in the infancy of it. But over the next 2 to 4, 3 to 5 years, we'll continue to see products and offerings and potentially even hardware that starts to bridge these worlds in a more meaningful way than we've seen to date.
When you start thinking about capital allocation decisions, obviously you have $1 to spend. How do you think about the return or the risk that you take by diverting it to either side of the business? It's kind of this fascinating exercise where maybe there's not just one answer and there's some variables there, but how do you think about that capital allocation?
Yeah, it's in the Bitcoin mining side of the world. When we think about allocating capital, how we look at it, you have to run massive sensitivity analysis where you're really guessing on where the price of Bitcoin and global hash rate are going to be at any given point in time in that return profile that you're building for the investment in the mining hardware in particular. And that's why so we're actually in the middle of a merger that's pending final approvals with a private Bitcoin mining company called USBTC. And one of the things that we love about the USBTC model, they're diversified just like HUD is, but rather than being diversified into HPC, USBTC is diversified into, they do prop mining, but then they also do hosting for other miners, and they have a managed infrastructure operations business, which is really just, think about it almost as professional services. They bring their bodies and their purpose-built software in to manage mines for other people. And all three of those businesses have a much, much different capital profile. The most intensive business across both Hut 8 and USBTC's operations is prop mining. Prop mining, highly, highly, highly capital intensive, a ton of variables that you're really just kind of running sensitivity analysis and making your best guess on where the returns will go over a period of time. Whereas hosting, much less capital requirement because the client brings the mining equipment. And then in the case of MIO, really no capital investment at all. And then, as I said, on the HUD side, prop mining, we also have a repair center, and then the HPC side. So it gives us a lot of flexibility based on what we're seeing in the macro environment, either on traditional HPC or on the Bitcoin mining side, and we can kind of flex between the different lines when we think about what's the best allocation of capital, obviously in a go-forward state, assuming we're successful in our merger.
So obviously you've got this kind of capital allocation decision, but there's also M&A, which is another form of kind of capital allocation. You all seem to be one of the more aggressive companies in the public markets that have Bitcoin mining, but also are pursuing M&A strategy, whether it's with other public companies or private companies. Talk a little bit about, kind of the advantages you see there and maybe the opportunity set in terms of choosing not to do this once, but it seems like now this is becoming somewhat of a strategy. So what are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think, I come from a bit of a unique background where I've got a lot of experience in transformation and with distressed. The strategy we took in the bull market was to really focus on shoring up the balance sheet. We have a large stack of Bitcoins. We've got over 9,000 Bitcoin on our balance sheet that's unencumbered, very, very, very little leverage in the business. And my thesis was the Bitcoin cycle has always repeated in a very similar fashion. And so I was taking the view that the last bull market would eventually end and we would roll into a bear market, which is obviously what we saw. In this case, the bear market for miners in particular, especially challenging on the back of the energy crisis, as well as lower Bitcoin prices and a global hash rate that just continues to grow. So kind of the perfect storm for miners. And in our case, because we had shored up the balance sheet, we had already successfully done our first M&A transaction being the HPC business that was integrated. And I really, when looking at kind of what was happening in the market and the opportunities available, it felt to me like your dollars were going to go further in through investing in inorganic growth than organic, particularly with the challenges we've seen in the supply chain. So just really, really high prices across the board, long lead times. Whereas in the inorganic space, opportunities to do pickups that give you kind of an immediate benefit without exposing you to the challenges on the inorganic side.
And then when you start thinking about those M&A opportunities, obviously being a Canadian-based business, you've done some stuff in Canada, now you're doing some stuff in the United States. Are there other geographic regions that you're focused on or think could be strategic for you?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time looking at assets in various regions. I think it's really important to look at geopolitical risk, not just short term, but long term, and that can be a challenge. We also kind of markets that I really liked ended up not faring well in the energy crisis, and so that kind of changed the perspective there. I think some of the technology we're seeing continue to advance in immersion. The economics are starting to get more attractive. That opens up hotter climate markets. I think the UAE in particular has done an incredible job of really attracting some of the best and brightest in digital assets from across the globe, and certainly have a very open, easy to navigate regulatory environment. But it remains to be seen from a mining perspective what might make the most sense, but certainly open to it. And I like the jurisdiction.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you think of regulation, you talk about the jurisdiction there, but what about in the United States or in Canada? How has that affected decision making for you all?
Yeah, I think we've got the fortunate position of really just being focused on Bitcoin. It's only Bitcoin we hold on our balance sheet. We really are just infrastructure as far as the markets are concerned. We don't interact directly with retail consumers or any other kind of token. And I think really the focus in the US right now from a regulatory perspective is more focused on exchanges and other types of securities. There seems to be broad consensus that Bitcoin is a commodity, and certainly that's what we feel as well. One of the challenges we're seeing on both sides of the border in Canada and certain jurisdictions in the US is really in some cases, a lack of understanding about how Bitcoin mining really works and how it can benefit local grids and local communities. And so in an absence of understanding, we've seen, unfortunately, some mining moratoriums or mining bans. So it's really a jurisdiction by jurisdiction, in Canada, province by province, the US state by state, as to how mining's being perceived. And that, I think, as an industry, one of the areas that we really need to be focused on is education, and really kind of breaking down a lot of the misunderstanding that surrounds Bitcoin mining, and drive more conversations that lead to kind of thoughtful regulation and us being able to really partner with grids and communities in a way that benefits all parties, which I think is the unique beauty of this type of load. There is no other industrial scale power consumer like Bitcoin mining that can work seamlessly with and to help support the grid, but also to stabilize and help monetize without the need for government subsidies or intervention.
That's very true.
My last question is that you are not a Bitcoin Luddite. You didn't necessarily, kind of come to Bitcoin and be like, oh my God, the government's going to fail and I'm going to get rich because of this. You've had a very impressive career. Maybe what are some of the surprises as you've gotten deeper and deeper into the Bitcoin market, into kind of the culture of Bitcoin, into the mining process? Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you that was either kind of an assumption that ended up not being true, or maybe something that was a surprise as you kind of built all this out?
Certainly the biggest surprise was how supportive and collaborative the entire community is. I mean, coming from traditional technology, mostly all of my career was in large public companies. I did a stint at one of the banks in capital markets. And there isn't the level of collaboration, kind of this spirit of community that permeates our space. That was the biggest surprise, and it continues to be. We all of the companies really in our space know each other. We're broadly trying to do what's in the best interest of the industry. When we think about we created the Bitcoin Mining Council a couple of years ago, really to help bring a unified opportunity for us to speak and speak out in defense of some of the misunderstanding and the FUD that was permeating the headlines, often about the energy use. And so I think really just doing as much work as we can as an industry to educate, again, critically important. But biggest surprise for me is just the amount of positivity. And really, at the end of the day, everybody wants the industry to be successful and are supporting the participants in order to ultimately get us to the place that we think this industry deserves to go.
Jamie, where can we send people to find you on the internet or find out more about Hut 8?
I have the great benefit of a name that doesn't exist on anyone else on the planet. So at Jamie Leverton, the way I spell it, if you Google it, assuming you don't find one of my imposters, it's literally at Jamie Leverton on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I'm super easy to find, as is Hut 8. Our website's hut8.io, and really just super thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll definitely do it again in the future.
I think
that would be great. Thanks.
Very good video from Anthony Pomp. So if you guys aren't subbed to him, go check him out. All right, let's see real quick. Mr. Dumpster Fire said, "Is the router changes IP addresses weekly? Would that affect mining?" Is that something they said? Honestly, I missed it, to be honest, if that's what they were saying. Mr. Yeti, do you know? Is Mr. Yeti here still? Let me see. Still tag him? Would he know if the IP? I don't think he's here anymore, but I'm not sure, to be honest. I would assume not, but does anybody know in the chat? Would changing IP addresses weekly, would that affect mining? I don't think so. I don't see why it would. I mean, you can still point machines to whatever you're doing, right? Regardless, guys. Anyways, XRP holding pretty good right now, 77 cents it looks like. Congratulations to them for winning that lawsuit, which is pretty amazing. I mean, there's plenty of other information out there. If you guys are interested, feel free. Everything is in the description if you guys missed it. Let's see. No, it's my... Oh, the Mofi router. That is that what it, Mofi? How do you say that? I saw you ask the question earlier. That's right. I have not used it. You said, is anyone using a Mofi or Yeah, is it Mofi? Is that how you say that? Cellular router? I've never... What is it? Let me Google this now. Mofi. What is it? What is this thing? Let's see. Couple $100. Mofi Network Inc. fastest router. Click on that. This thing's crazy looking. What the hell? So what would benefit you having one of these? Why would you have one of these? Crypto 440, my man. Dude, I still haven't plugged in those GPUs. Oh my god, I have so much shit to do. It's insane. And I still have to send that back to that other one back to Will Wyman. God damn it. Totally forgot. Changing IPs won't affect mining at all. I didn't think so, Tains. But that's not, I'm not a network guy, so I don't want to say anything that I'm really not positive about. But these, what's the benefit of having this router? No hassle, 30-day money back, no sales. No sales tax for USA orders, 4G, LTE, 5G, and much more. I don't know what the point of this thing is. No to mining, but yes to any type of master or service nodes where they don't handle IP changes, says Retro Mike. And that's, yeah, I believe that, actually. I mean, that sounds pretty legit, right? It's a pirate dumpster fire. Just make sure you get an IPv4 address. Some mobile carriers can provide IPv6 addresses. Interesting. LTC cellular connections. Sorry, connection to your ISP. Interesting. Yeah, that all that shit's above my head. That's Mr. Retro Tech and Yeti that would know all the answers to that stuff. To be honest, I still need a router myself. I need to get a new one, but it won't be one of those. It'll be a normal one. Modern Wi-Fi host spot router, or my, I don't know what you're trying to say. Modern Wi-Fi hotspot router, is that what you're trying to say, Retro Mike? Let's see. I never reached the upload speeds I pay for. Leo Lustig, dude. You know what? I have 1 gig. It goes pretty fast, but yeah, I don't think I ever really use it except for when I'm uploading a video to YouTube. I don't know why you or how you'd use it if you were just a normal every average day Joe, you know. All right, well, is there any last questions before we get out of here, guys? It is Friday. Hopefully you guys are having a good Friday. As of right now, market's up. Sell some crypto. Don't advise buying in yet. Everybody, don't live off the hype, but benefit from it if you can. Again, Crypto Frank, I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much for that. Carl Coach, real quick, said, yes, the routers that are provided my Xfinity are cheap routers, so you can get better router if you purchase it yourself. Steven Cicero said, can't get 1 full gig. It's like 940/880, I think. No, mine's 1 gig. I don't know about yours. It's cellular router. If you don't have access to the hardline ISP, it's like what Panda used in the barn. Oh, I gotcha. Tains, that makes way more sense. Okay. All right. Way more sense. But all right, wait. So how does that? It's a cellular router. If you don't have access to a hardline ISP, it's like a. So what do? Did he have to plug it in the house, and then you have to have like, is it like an extender but over Wi-Fi? Is that how that works? Or no? I'm not sure. I forget how that worked with Panda. But the only reason I'm asking is because, to be honest, when we go, so I can go up north, right? But my service to my, so I have a piece of land up north. I have like 2 acres up there, and I plan on building a place eventually. But the service up there blows, like it's terrible. But phones are okay. It's just certain spots it's rough. So I'd have to, like, I don't know how service would be up there for internet, to be honest. So some type of cellular would be kind of cool, but I don't know how that would work. SIM card on the router. Okay, interesting. Just like your phone. Man, I'm gonna have to look into that then. So it's called this Mofi, however you're supposed to say it. Interesting. And what is just like, just cell phone plan type deal? That's kind of cool. They used to have those for like Verizon and stuff, right? Like hotspots or just in general. Kind of neat. Starlink. Yeah, I was thinking Starlink. Carl Coat. I was thinking Starlink. Shit's expensive though. I guess if you're looking at this Mofi stuff, it's pretty close though, right? So if we look at, let's see. Let me go to, let's go to Google. Nope, that's gonna come up that. It did not click on it. All right, there we go. What was I doing? Starlink router. This right here. Order Starlink. How much is it? I have to get one. I was thinking about it. I don't need it for business, just residential. Travel with Starlink. See, this is kind of cool that you can travel around. There's actually some dude that like drives around and actually he plays like friggin' video games in his van. I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about, but interesting. Where do you buy the shit? Oh, you have to type in the address. That's lame. That's lame. They don't give you like any type of ID. Dude, this is crazy. What is this? Is that one of the satellites? That's nuts. Dude, Starlink is so neat. So friggin' neat. Does anybody use this? Anybody here? Does anybody have Starlink? You'll be paying $100 a month after $800 for the kits. Okay. I mean, realistically though, I would pay the $100 a month to have good internet up where, like on my land, up north. If I did that, I could build a shed, lock it up, and just put this up there, and just leave it up there to do any type of mining that I wanted to with whatever my electric rate would be up north. which would be much less than here. And if it wasn't, I'd be very pissed. I'd be extremely pissed. It's totally remote. But anyways, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's gonna be my best bet, Starlink. Let's see. The last couple of nights, I have seen the Starlink train, loads of satellites following each other. What? Are you joking? Really? Douglas said, works great. I have it. Interesting. So do you pay $100 a month? It's like $120 a month, $600 for the kit. Cell carrier router will be loads cheaper. Yeah, but it would be much less reliable, I think. That's kind of where I don't want to get something that's stupid, unreliable, or glitching out here or there, like with cell service stuff. I don't know. Just get home 5G internet. I use it at a few of my mining locations. Just plug into your router. Well, so fully electric. So the thing is, with up north, right? It would be like I would be like towing my trailer up there. You know what I mean? And leaving it there and plugging it in, because I'd probably have power to a pole, but I wouldn't have a building to, like, you know, have them come and wire Verizon shit like that into the building. You know what I mean? So I would have to do something like Starlink, and I would probably just keep it after that, because there's really no point. When they launch, they are grouped and follow each other like a train. They branch off into their locations. Oh, you're talking about, oh yeah. So you're talking about like the train in the sky. Like I'm thinking like train, choo-choo train. Like I'm not thinking like whatever you're talking about getting launched up there in groups. That makes total sense. Yeah, I get that. Very reliable if you have zero obstructions, no trees. Interesting. Jump change, it's 5G internet, no building needed, fully wireless. Really? Okay, well, I didn't know anything about that, so I need to learn about 5G then, apparently. 5G, no building needed, fully wireless. Weird. I need some info on that. Like how does that work? How does that work? I mean, you have to have some sort of service, right? Am I wrong? Like how's that work? I don't get that. Interesting. Solar miner in Spain. Yeah, they freaked me out first time I saw them. What, the train? Yes, in the skies. All right. Anyways, Lazarus, Chump, you could get a throwaway phone / SIM router for it in a mobile hotspot. Yeah, I thought about that too. But see, again, some cell services are very spotty. That's kind of shitty, right? It just has a router built into it. You need to cover your location for 5G though. You need coverage for your location. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point too. So like that's the other like upside of Starlink, right? Starlink, you just be able to buy the shit as long as you have satellites over your area, which is probably much greater chance than having the 5G capabilities, right? Like somewhere in the woods, say. I mean, it's not too far from like civilization. It's like on civilization path, but it's very up north. It's kind of it's way less populated, let's put it that way. Don't use cell phones, they don't have amplified 5G signal. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Not really going to do that, I don't think. T-Mobile 5G internet, $30 a month, Chump. I wonder how T-Mobile would do up there. I'd have to look. I'm not sure. I'm not really positive how good it would do, but I mean, I guess only time will tell. All right, let me kill this poll in the chat and then we're gonna get out of here. I do have to do some stuff today, unfortunately. I said, in your opinion, will AI bring GPU mining back to the Ethereum profitability days for home miners? 46% of you said no, only data centers will benefit. And 100% said, yes, 100%. 26% of you said. And then not sure, show results is also 26%, 60 votes. So that's, it's kind of interesting to see where you guys are at with the whole artificial intelligence thing as a miner with GPUs, right? So I guess like in their conversation, they were talking about ASICs and how ASICs were used, or they tried to use ASIC computing power to, I guess, benefit the artificial intelligence back in the day, right? Or a couple of years back, and it failed miserably. It just wasn't good. It was very all over the place, right? Now with GPUs being much more, I guess, better, I guess, much. I'm trying to think of a word. What's the word I'm thinking of? Somebody find it for me, will you? But with it being much more beneficial, let's put it that way, versus the ASICs, and everybody at home using GPUs to mine with, I'm wondering if there is a way to actually utilize it in the best way possible for us to like gain the most out of it. You know what I mean? Not like just mining to a project, but I mean, I guess that would probably be the proof of useful work thing if that actually pans out, right? That would probably be the best way. But at the same time, like a coin like Dynex is just super easy to run, and if it's going towards the same thing, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Versatile, yeah, that's probably a better word, Lazarus. Thank you. Mining and AI rendering are two completely different segments. AI rendering doesn't need to be decentralized, and that's very true. That's very true, Retro Mike. Carl Code, as a home miner, you need the infrastructure like a data center for AI GPU mining. This includes 100% reliable internet, power, etc. Yeah, no, I agree. So the only thing that AI, I think, could really F people up is not... So like people are going to have like their mining rigs, right? And if we didn't overclock and undervolt and all this other shit, these cards are just going to full bore like burn their friggin' fans right off them. You know what I mean? So if we're not like, I guess, educated on that aspect and you don't pay attention to your power, you guys could cause issues, right? Melting plugs, etc. Let's see. Stationary hotspots are going to be better than mobile ones. Those external antennas are going to be way better for range. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. All right. I think that's it, guys. I think that's it. Yeah, the A2000s I like. You know what? The only thing that I'm pissed about my A2000s with is the fact that they're not 12 gigabytes. I only have the 6 gigabyte ones. So apparently it's not going to be as good. I don't know, though. I don't know. I'm not sure. But my A4000 is 16 gigabytes, so it should be a decent GPU. All right, we're out of here, guys. Have a good day. I got to get some stuff done. Unfortunately, I got to go to Home Depot and load up a bunch of wood. Again, Mr. Crypto Frank, thank you so much for the dono. You're amazing. Appreciate you all. You don't have to donate, but I do appreciate it. Retro Mike, have a good day, buddy. Appreciate you. Fully Electric, appreciate you as well. And I will be doing a 30-day profitability video on that KSO that Mr. Fully Electric actually allowed me to use for the time being. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good day. Happy Friday. Happy payday. I'll catch you guys real soon. Peace out.